How's it going? My name is Crayz, the #1 source for sandbox news on YouTube, and just today we've got a brand spanking new Devblog to go over. This Devblog covers all the stuff that they were working on throughout March. The blog also mentions they're going to start handing out early access keys, and they gave us a time frame. Yes, an actual time frame on when that's going to happen. There is no better time than right now to be hyped about sandbox because early access is coming. And we will get to that in a little bit. There is a ton of good information in this blog. Let's hop right in. We've got some entries in the Devblog by a Facepunch developer that we have not seen before in previous Devblogs. This is by Louis. He is a mapper/level designer. Let's start this Devblog with the stuff that Louis has been working on. Some pretty interesting stuff. Let's check it out. Deathmatch maps. Quote, I started off at Facepunch by experimenting with deathmatch maps, which should hopefully end up being versatile enough to be used in multiple different game modes. Louis is also working on what they call a scale Bible, which basically helps level designers check the scale of objects to make sure everything is consistent. They say, we started running into a problem with some of the Rust assets because they use inconsistent scales, and a lot of the feel of Source Engine is the consistent scale for everything. And I totally agree with that. Part of the beauty behind Hammer Editor even is that people pretty much always design their levels on the grid. Consistency and symmetry. That's part of the beauty behind Hammer Editor and Source Engine, and it's a shame that more engines don't adopt this style of level design. Louis is also working on unit test maps to test the functionality of entities. What they've been testing mostly lately are buttons. If you follow the Sandbox Twitter, you'll see they posted a video recently where there are some buttons you can press on the wall and a description above each button saying what it does exactly. For example, one of the buttons only triggers when the button fully slides out to its open position, and they've got a map to test all this stuff and make sure it's working properly. And now here's something cool that Sam has been working on. It is a glow effect for 3D models. Quote, Garry hated the Left 4 Dead looking glow effect that we had with the engine, so I rewrote it inspired by our Facepunch.highlight mesh outline effect. The glow effect looks very nice and it's got a lot of functionality to it, so Gmod developers can get creative with it to create interesting gameplay elements, or simply just to spice up the visuals a little bit if that's what they want to do. Layla has been working on voice chat. Now, Source 2 already had voice chat integrated, so they could have just used that, but of course, with most things, Facepunch is looking to expose functionality to the C# add-on development side to give content creators as much power as possible. Okay, this is something cool. Scene render capture, something else that Layla has been working on. Quote, we wanted a way to render 3D objects onto the UI. Basically, they want to be able to render 3D objects to the UI without having to spawn an actual entity into the world. So they've created a very convenient way for add-on developers to sort of create a 3D scene that is, I guess, separated from the rest of the game. And as you can see here, this can be used to create some really cool stuff. We've got Terry with his walk animation looking at your cursor wherever you move it. There have been some updates and improvements to the user interface. Both Garry and Sam have been working on this throughout March. We've got CSS box, better text and emoji rendering, 9-slice border images, W3C conformity, and virtual scrolling, which in short, improves the performance of scroll elements that have a lot of content inside of them. We're going to wrap this blog post up here soon and then get to the juicy information about early access. Most of what's left in the Devblog is more developer oriented, so if you are a developer, I encourage you to go through the blog and read through it to see all the little details. But for this video, we're just trying to paint a broad picture of everything that Facepunch have been working on and highlight all the juicy details. Up next is another thing that Garry has been working on, the Gmod style cursor input, which allows you to move around your cursor and crosshair without actually changing the view angles of your camera. As you can see, the arms and the gun kind of follows it around. It's almost kind of like a more realistic effect, I guess, because if you're pointing a gun in real life, you don't necessarily move your entire body, you just move your arms. This can definitely be useful when you are developing add-ons or just trying to experiment with things and you don't want the camera to be moving around. Garry has also been working on some rich presence and friend features, which basically shows what your friends are doing and allows you to easily join their games. As you can see here in the user interface, we've got a list of friends, what they're doing, whether or not they are in a game, and if they are, a join button next to their name. All right. Blog post summary / early access. We're finally getting to the juicy information about early access. As I said at the beginning of the video, they mentioned there was a time frame for releasing early access keys to the community, and this is going to happen in April. You heard that right. Early access keys are being handed out in April. Now, we are one day away from April 1st, so maybe this is an April Fool's joke. but let's just pray it's not. I have faith that this is not a joke. This is really happening. Please let this happen. Okay, so April, what does that mean? That means literally tomorrow somebody could receive an early access key, because today is March 31st, tomorrow is April. They said April, so literally they could release a key tomorrow. Who knows what's going to happen? Although, of course, it is very important to note that this early access is for developing, not playing. Of course, being a sandbox game, it sort of relies on there being content existing in the game for people to play, so it wouldn't make much sense to release it right now for players. But it does make tons of sense to release it for developers so they can start playing around with the API and playing around with all the features and systems, discovering bugs and assisting in development, plus creating content for the players when the game is fully released, or at least released to a larger audience. Alright guys, I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Let's wrap this up. If there is any news to share about Sandbox, I will be creating a video on it, so make sure if you're not subscribed to hit that subscribe button. If you like the content and you want to support my channel, hit that like button. It really helps the YouTube algorithm promote my content. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.